So hello and good morning. I'm glad to see everyone is up and here, although I think there are less people than yesterday. So maybe we'll give other people time to wake up and brush their teeth and come here to join us for a full day of discussions and panels and presentations about the domain industry and the domain landscape. Today we are going to talk about cloud services, security, I think in quite a technical way, also of course artificial intelligence and other topics that I'm sure are useful and interesting. But we will kick off the day with a panel discussion, and we are going to talk about cloud services and more specifically cloud monopolies, and even more specifically probably the US monopoly on cloud services, and if something should and could be done about that, or is it already too late, or maybe it doesn't matter at all. And so I have 4 panelists to join me on stage and give their opinions. So go ahead, find the seat. As yesterday, we have a QR code to, you can send questions. We received quite a lot of questions yesterday, which was very nice and very useful, so go ahead. But I will start by introducing the panel. From my left, we have Timo Võhmar, who is the head of development of the EE registry. Hello.
Hello.
And then we have Siim, who is from the Estonian IT Center and is the project manager of the Estonian State Cloud.
Service manager.
Service, okay.
I got an upgrade.
What's the difference?
Well, the project ended and they needed someone to manage the service. That was the brainchild of that.
Okay, now we are in the public sector labyrinth. The project ended, but the service didn't end. Okay, then we have Robert Jacobi, who's from Blackwall. And Robert's question and request was, are there any other Americans in the audience? Yay!
Yes.
So,
Almost, Chris.
2 Americans then, yeah? And then we have Kristian Liivak from Wavecom, who is a cloud service provider. Hi.
Hello.
Cloud service monopolies, US colonialism and everything. Why? I mean, I use a lot of, as a private person, and even for my businesses, I use a lot of cloud services and internet services. Probably most of them, probably almost all of them are American. I don't really see a problem myself as a small regular person. Like, is this a problem? Why can this be considered a problem? Not the American, but can you give me an overview? Why are we talking about this?
It's a huge problem, actually. If your data is shared with US government, like it's happening in China, I consider it a very huge problem.
Okay, well, but why?
Why? Your data is shared with someone else. It's not safe.
Okay, but even, I mean, we have European Union regulations about data and where data should be stored and where not and everything.
But US companies have own regulations, like in China.
Okay.
Like in China, they must share data, even it's located, let's say in Sweden, they must share it with US government institutions.
Yeah, well, the problem boils down to the state regulation in the United States, namely the Cloud Act, that and the American companies are, let's say, subject to that, and it states more or less that regardless where you operate in the world, in case of, let's say, valid court orders, you need to be able to expose the data that whatever the government institutions in the United States are investigating, for example. Plus, we have numerous WikiLeaks and Snowden and etc. who have exposed various government secret programs that are actively or heavily analyzing the data of the customers of those service providers. And this is something that has been a problem for decades already, because the European Union and United States, they haven't gotten to a proper agreement how the data is handled actually.
Timo, what's your opinion? Is this a problem?
It's a political thing.
Yeah.
Yes. So I guess as a private person or as techies, I think it's not problem on that level, because the services are good, the services are the best. There's no other choice actually on the same level. So you're getting what you're paying for, but it boils down to how much you value your privacy, I guess. How much do you want to share your data with China, with US government, with foreign governments? Let's say. How much do you want them to analyze you and define you?
Yeah, well, the problem isn't so much of, let's say, when we're talking about private persons, but rather we're talking about the governments, the sovereignty of the data or services that you're running on top of those public cloud service providers, because they are good. No one, they wouldn't be so popular if they weren't good. So that's actually where it creates this additional overhead of doing the security and risk assessments and accepting those risks as a sovereign body of that the governments are.
So Robert, I mean, you're an American citizen. We can, in a friendly manner, we can poke you about that. But it's you're not here as an American citizen. You're here as Blackwall, right?
Blackwall, which is an Estonian company.
Yes.
So
but in your work, how much do you see this question or this problem pop up?
Not as much as you would think. The data retention, sovereignty issues are not as big of a deal. From our end, we focus on cybersecurity across all platforms globally, and we do have our own infrastructure. We have infrastructure on cloud services and whatnot, depending on what the best technical solution is for the region, whether that's not just technical but legal as well. And it's fun to pick on America or China or whatnot regarding data privacy and whatnot. There's nothing to say that any country just won't do it anyway. I mean, we see right now in the UK what they're trying to do with messaging and having backdoors for being able to unencrypt private messages. So that can happen anywhere for any reason at any time. So that issue is not as great as really how do you want to manage your infrastructure and control it and get the best performance out of it? And there, I think, is a better question, because cloud isn't always the best solution, especially for the money.
For private people, when we teach them internet security, internet privacy, then one of the first principles, one of the first things you say is that you have to consider in the back of your head that anything you put on the internet
Correct.
can be considered public, right? It's like you can put 3 passwords this long, but you have to keep in mind that at one point this might be available for someone else. When we are talking about government data, enterprise data, businesses, and we are talking about cloud, is this the same consideration that I should keep in the back of my head, that, it's in the cloud, might be public at one point, or do we think that this is 100%, secure in the big picture, that that we trust the cloud, and therefore it's worth asking the question if we want to share our data with the Americans, even though we password protect it and it's encrypted. Is there such a thing as cloud data that is in Europe and will stay in Europe, and end of the story? Can this be done?
There is clear answer. Actually, today I'm representing as well CISPA. It's Association of EU Cloud Providers. My company is a very fresh member. CISPA stands for transparency, cloud and data sovereignty, portability, so on, so on, so on. And I think there can be future. And they have several working groups developing those goals. I'm member of data sovereignty group actually, and there They have also, they helping governments to make cloud procurements in proper, transparent way. Actually, they have a member catalog. You need to be certified by third party like Bureau Veritas to get there actually and have some previous certifications. I see there is great potential.
Others?
Well, coming back to your question, there is no such thing as 100% security.
Yes.
And a lot of the data leaks actually have happened because enterprises and or governments have misconfigured, for example, those cloud service providers, platform services, rather than that those cloud service providers themselves have been compromised in one way or another. And obviously, I have been working with both AWS and Microsoft people while, let's say, creating this framework how to more easily onboard Estonian public sector to public cloud. And they are working a lot to at least try to ensure that that those services that we consume are secure, that they adhere to the European laws and standards, and etc. But still, well, we have this political thing, as Timo mentioned, and this is something that we can't escape. But it's not like those enterprises are somehow not trying to address those issues or not trying to conform to the legal framework that they are operating within the European Union.
But in the big picture, I mean, on state level, on maybe enterprise level, I kind of personally feel that if the Chinese or the Americans or the Russians or the Brazilians want whatever data, they really want to get their hands on some data that's on some Estonian computer somewhere, then they have the means and the possibilities to do so. And therefore, the whole discussion of whether we should keep our data in Estonia, in Sweden, or in the US is not really valid.
Yes, well, any computer connected to the network is theoretically compromisable. So from that perspective, I agree with you.
Yeah, Timo?
It was, I guess, a couple of years ago, there was a really big push to actually work with the routing, because even on the routing level in the internet, you cannot keep data in check. Mm-hmm. So if you just send data from one European country to the other, it might happen that it goes through US, mm-hmm. or some third-party country. So even on that level, it's really hard to keep
data in the European Union.
Exactly. So by default, if you put your data in the internet, it's out there, it's public. And with cloud services, you are giving away even more control, because you don't even have the data anymore.
Robert, what's your view on that?
I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, the internet's built to be distributed, redundant, fault tolerant. So yes, you have to have multiple ways to route traffic, and anytime you start routing traffic, it can be sniffed. I mean, there are traffic managers that look at this stuff all the time. Even if you had like a complete walled garden in the EU, that doesn't mean I couldn't just set one up on a tower outside the building here, start sniffing traffic and seeing what's going on, especially with more people using Wi-Fi. That's also another way to sort of break into the system, for lack of a better term. So to me, it boils down to we can legislate all we want, fine. It's great, and I frankly do appreciate GDPR maintaining that privacy, or at least a semblance of that, more so than it used to be. But the question is really around what is the business reason for using one of the 3-4 global cloud providers, or do we look at independent cloud providers that may offer us better solutions, or do you just build your own infrastructure, which seems to be something that's actually coming back again due to costs and control and maintenance and all those things. The main cloud providers are expensive, and it's not always the best answer just to say I have my application or website in the cloud. That doesn't solve anything magically.
So what is the state of the European cloud business in general? I talk to a lot of startups. I have a startup podcast every week, and every once in a while there are technical questions arising, and none of them have ever mentioned a European cloud provider. The first company they go to is AWS, or maybe Google, or maybe Microsoft, but for startups, no. But this is all American. No one has ever mentioned anything, any European cloud name to me ever.
OVH has a huge cloud project.
Hetzner is quite...
Hetzner, yes, yeah, they're here.
Like, is there such a thing as a European cloud industry?
There are actually, just looked at cispa.cloud website and members. There are a huge list of organizations and providers, and they are quite big actually. And regarding the last topic, actually, security, mostly it's dependent how the organization secure own data. It's all about that, and that's currently quite weak level. It's my opinion.
But in general, are you saying that European cloud providers can technically and business-wise and price-wise compete with the big Amazons and Microsofts of the world?
Indeed. And my own vision is that there is like 3 horsemen, cowboys, cloud cowboys who don't follow our rules. They are riding to the sunset. And there will be competition in the EU, and fair competition, and also quality, security, compliance, and so on, so on.
Maybe we're asking the question not completely correctly. What is cloud? Because does it automatically imply that it has to be a global service? Because then you run into the same problems. Even if it's an Estonian cloud provider, if they have distributed locations all over the world, that doesn't necessarily solve the problem either. So is it just a very walled EU cloud? No one can come in or out unless they live in the EU? Of course not. So I think it's a red herring, sort of a false flag to say that just because it's a hosting company, because that's what cloud services are at the end of the day. It's hosting with some fun software that makes some things easier. Does it really matter where it is at all for any reason?
So perhaps it does, but the problem with the European cloud service providers is that the portfolio of the big 3 cloud service providers, they have, all of them have roughly around 200 different IT services in their portfolio. And developing those IT services, doing the innovation, it's really expensive and it's really specialized knowledge, I would say. And well, the Hetzner and the other European cloud OVH that we mentioned, obviously they offer some basics that enable you to operate within their environment as well. It's just that their service portfolio is something like this, and AWS and Azure is something like this. And this is where the difference comes, but it doesn't mean... I use Hetzner personally myself. Okay. It's at least twice as cheap as AWS and Azure similar offerings, even perhaps more. So obviously they have competitive edge when it comes to pricing. It's just that you get a certain set of services, but you need to start building your own platform services sometimes on top of that. Mm-hmm. And in AWS and Azure, you can get those out of the box. So there is this difference of what is the cost of IT in operating in cloud.
Timo, what's your experience? What your opinions are? Is Europe competitive in the cloud business?
I don't know. I haven't seen any competitive ones yet. They say that there are some hidden somewhere. But then we, at the Internet Foundation, we have been dealing with the cloud for, I don't know, 5-6 years now, trying to find a perfect solution, starting from the riigipilv, and now actually still ending up in AWS, even though we tried really hard to avoid Americans. But in the end, it boiled down to what Siim said. It's the services that are available on the platform, and the other level is the support that is available. There are so many companies that offer support for these big American cloud providers. You can get training, you can get consultation, and even on the cloud provider level, there are support organizations built up that come and help you migrate and do all this stuff. So it's as painless as possible.
So you're saying that the service portfolio of the European cloud providers is not competitive with the American ones?
Well, you can't compare apples to oranges, I would say. That what they offer, both, for example, Hetzner and OVG, they are actually solid services. It's not like they're not usable. It's just that they have limited coverage, perhaps, compared to the global service providers.
Kristian, do you
Yeah,
agree?
no, limited coverage indeed. As Wavecom is local provider, I strongly disagree about the quality, about the portfolio. The cloud I'm run is based in VMware software stack. You all know the options what are there. I personally developed the first AI solution related to Danzo Kubernetes automation a couple years ago. However, now there are issues. I'm calling it Broadcom-Geddon, if you know what I mean. I guess you know.
But for those who don't know, you can explain.
Well, VMware had 2 years ago 4,500 service providers. When the Broadcom acquired VMware, the first harvest was there was left like 2,000. The second one just that was like a month ago. Now it's like 900, and only 18 of them from US, and most of them from EU, because they're afraid our EU Commission.
Okay.
That is one. Actually, the VMware is a good alternative. It's all about quality. Actually, it's light years away from any other software stack, actually, in my opinion. Well, you can disagree with me, but I have been in business like 30 years, VMware user like since version 2, and so on.
Siim, why are you not agreeing?
Well, in government sector, we are actually heavily using open source solutions. And yes, I know VMware was one of the first who created this, let's say, mature enterprise grade hypervisor and all the surrounding ecosystem around that. But I would say that the value added today compared to the open source alternatives or the competition from whatever other companies, I would say that VMware definitely is not in our radar for years now, especially after the Broadcom acquisition and the insane pricing that followed that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true, but we also have solution for that. Now we are building a new cloud stack. It's based on French company Votes Xen server, actually, and in cloud stack cloud environment with different services present. It's all about European services, and I see their great value, but it's closest thing, actually, that what the stack is closest thing to VMware, actually, technically. I can say those environments based in KVM, actually, there is no, not so many technical advanced options like have those two companies, actually. The KVM clouds, let's speak honestly about government cloud is cluster disaster, in my opinion.
Okay, well, then we will talk about that. But when we look at the numbers, then Europe has something like double the number of population compared to the US. A little bit less, I think. US is like 300 million.
30, somewhere around.
Yeah, and Europe is, okay, it's less, but anyway, it's bigger. It's bigger. We have more people in Europe than in the US. And cloud it's a scale game. Like there is no denying that. But why is that we have these US companies basically ruling the world, and we, the bigger guys here, are discussing if we can somehow replace the smaller guys? Maybe that's a question for you, Robert. What did you do there?
I think just the business needs drove that. So you have, let's not even think of the cloud providers first. Let's think of the applications that were created in the U.S. that needed to be able to deploy globally. So your Ubers, your Amazon Shopping, your Facebooks, those kinds of applications have a global need, and so the infrastructure kind of came following that along, more so than those kinds of applications originating on the European side. Certainly there are some, obviously, but there's just more of that happening in the U.S., and I think that need propelled and drove the requirements for having a globally accessible infrastructure.
There was a few days ago, there was a list of the most valuable tech companies in the world going around LinkedIn, and as of now, there are no European companies left in top 20 or 25 or 30. There used to be SAP, but I think with the rise of the AI industry, they have been pushed down now. So I think Europe is officially at zero at the moment. But yeah, let's come to the government cloud, or state cloud. How is it called in English?
Well, it is government cloud.
Government cloud.
Yeah.
Basically, the Estonian government decided to build its own cloud infrastructure.
Well, it has a bigger history than the government decided to build its own. Initially, it was a consortium of private companies that built it out and sold it back to the Estonian government. But yeah, today government is running the government cloud.
Why are we doing this?
Well, for whatever reason, consortium wanted to get their hands out of it, so probably it was not so profitable business for...
No, but why does the Estonian government have to have a cloud in a world where there are loads of cloud services?
Well, of course. Yeah. Well, as I said, at the end of the day, we as a government, we need to have, let's say, certain aspect of sovereignty over our decision, over our data, and government cloud is one of the options. It's not like it's a must-have, but going back, let's say, a decade or two, then the problem was that every government institution had their own private cloud or VMware cluster, or however we want to call them, and it was one of the options how to consolidate this and try to achieve some sort of economies of scale, so that each one of those agencies doesn't build their own private cloud. So from that perspective, I think the government cloud makes perfect sense of trying to alleviate that. It's just, well, remains to be, the question is that where is the balance of, let's say, having a private sector offering the similar services like big cloud service providers do, or building something on your own. Because, well, as Robert mentioned, big cloud service providers aren't cheap. They are terrific place to go and start your business. They are terrific place to go and innovate with new platform offerings without building it them by yourself or doing the procurement and etc. But they are not cheap. So at the end of the day, I think we have tried to compare apple to oranges, and government cloud is on-demand nodes are roughly half the price of AWS and Azure equivalents. So, but as I said, comparing apples to oranges, because government cloud offers a even smaller subset of services than the OVH or Hetzner do, for example.
But do we, as the Estonians, as the Estonian government, do we feel that our data is more sort of safe or more private?
Definitely.
In the government cloud?
Definitely. We have full control of the whole life cycle of the data and the management of the government cloud. It's operated only by government employees, so from that perspective, definitely yes.
Okay, and the data, no byte will leave the Estonian soil?
Well, it's I would say that no, in a sense that Estonians have had the concept of data embassy for years now, and we're talking about business continuity of the government critical services, and obviously we do have outside of Estonia a location that is government cloud European region, if you want to call one availability zone a region. But yeah, we are actually, this is a completely separate angle when it comes to the continuity of the Estonian government and the services and how the Russians have been behaving in past decades and etc. So data leaves Estonian soil, but again, it's a tier 4 data center. The services in that data center are also only Estonian nationals. So even if it's outside of Estonia, still the physical aspect of the cloud is under strict Estonian government control.
Someone from the audience is asking why is the platform usage so low? Is it the functionality poor, or is there something else?
Well, that I can't answer. Fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not a government cloud manager, but the government cloud has almost 100 customers when it comes to public sector entities. So if someone is saying that the usage is low, then I don't know how high it has to be. But there are customers, and there are obviously continued development of those government cloud services or platform services on top of that government cloud. So I don't know, compared to what is the usage low?
Yeah, to Amazon maybe.
Yeah.
Kristian, what's your opinion on the government cloud? Is this something we should do as a government?
No,
as a country?
government is always the owner. Actually, we are seeing like very many bigger government cloud customers are currently moving to our cloud, actually, bigger ones.
Why?
Why? The quality, our organization is and team highly certified. We have like 5 ISO standards, all about security, business continuity, environmental as well, and the pricing, of course. Our prices are lower than IVS or whatever, and our new offering actually will be based in EU cloud software, will have similar prices like the government cloud. That will be for like organization demanding bit not so high SLA, like 100% we have for VMware-based environment. It's mostly for like enterprises. I'm housing there like companies like Cisco as well, and so on. It have quality, it have SLA, everything.
Timo, an audience member wants to know, does .ee also use the government cloud, or what do you use?
No, we don't. We tried it, but it boiled down to the actual support, because we are a very small team, so we needed outside help quite a lot. But I guess maybe it was timing, because it was quite the beginning times for government cloud as well, so they were really busy and couldn't help, so we had to figure everything out ourselves. So at some point we just got tired and
And so what do you use now?
We are AWS clients.
Do you feel bad about this somehow? Like, do you feel that you're not doing the right thing?
Only when he's put on stage.
Politically.
Yeah, I can't tell you the truth because Siim is here, but but yeah, patriot in me, of course, would have preferred to go for government cloud, definitely any day. But yeah, we just didn't have the manpower or knowledge or experience enough to actually make it happen in reasonable time frame.
Okay, so it seems that the Estonian government is too small to afford running a cloud service with developments and certificates and support and all the machinery that comes on top of just buying servers.
Well, at the end of the day, it boils down to what the customers need out of that cloud service. And it really doesn't matter if it's VMware or KVM-based infrastructure underneath, because most of the service stack lives on either on database services or Kubernetes stack, or uses some sort of load balancer or firewall services. So from that perspective, infrastructure layer is just an API endpoint to call out with the automation flows. But that has been perhaps the bane of the government cloud, that at least in the early days, or now we have rolled out the government cloud 2.0, and who knows what will be 3.0 will look like. But in the early days, they were overly focused on the infrastructure layer, not on the platform services layer. And this is something that we are actually actively fixing now.
So let's say that it's a good idea for European companies to use more European cloud services. Let's say we want that. And let's say that it's true that the European cloud providers are not competitive enough. Their service portfolio is not as good as AWS or Azure or others. What should we do in Europe? Like, is this a business problem, or is this a regulation problem, or is this a culture problem? Maybe Robert, you can start.
I'm going to start with the business problem, because I was just thinking about, why are people not as enthused or excited about using the Estonian cloud? If I learn how to use AWS and I live in Estonia, I can also take that job to any place else. If I learn how to use the Estonian cloud, well, I'm kind of stuck as in maybe a potential career choice. And that kind of flexibility and opportunity for certainly wage growth and whatnot probably is self-perpetuating around that. So if I start with AWS, I know how to use AWS, I can become a smarter, better engineer. If I want to move to Germany, if I want to move to Australia, if I want to move to the United States, UK, or wherever, I can take that skill set and use it for those companies as well. So that may be sort of part of the issue in getting people just excited to use it as a community versus any specific business issue.
Yeah, others?
Yeah, well, the adoption has been as it is, because it has not been mandatory per se. Obviously, it is something that is being pushed politically towards, or the consolidation or the economies of scale. But at the end of the day, we do have today the Public Cloud Act in Estonia, and basically it equates, when it comes to, we differentiate based on data classification, and up to a certain data classification, government cloud and those public service providers or private cloud service providers, because we do have them in Estonia as well, they are more or less treated as equal. So we're not heavily promoting or making it mandatory to always pick government cloud first, and then if for whatever reason it does not suit your need, then you are allowed to go to the public cloud or private cloud service providers. It's not like that. It's just that, as Robert mentioned, building out hybrid solutions or hybrid designs when it comes to managing or operating across different service providers, it's a really complex topic that I'm not overly fond of. So the complexity of managing those different ecosystems, this could also play part of when customers, they have their specific need and they need to have those needs catered now. So I would say that it's perfectly okay if they choose what's the solution that helps them to succeed.
No, okay, but if we just give a wider view to this question, let's not talk about the Estonian government cloud, but let's just say we want European businesses to use European clouds because it's better in all sorts of ways, but they're not doing it. They're still going to AWS, a lot of them. So what should we change there? Like, what should change in Europe in order to have European cloud services be, I don't know, more competitive or maybe better at marketing and sales? Where is the problem? Robert?
I think you hit the nail on the head there with some of the marketing and sales. That everyone knows about AWS,
yeah.
But I'll tell you, very few Americans know about OVH, or even less so about Hetzner.
I think even maybe less Europeans know about that. I'm not sure. I mean...
Okay, well then that's even worse of a situation. I mean, because that's part of that if you can't even sell into your own backyard, how will you actually have a greater reach?
Yeah, others? Timo, Siim?
Me.
Yeah.
Actually, now the European cloud providers, they are uniting. Previously, they were in comfort zone, serving own country customers, but now there is difference. Like I mentioned, that Cloud Provider Association is doing a lot of work for that. But second option is also unfair government regulations. Let's say in Estonia, you can go government cloud without any public tenant, or now the regulation to AWS or Azure without public tenant. But if you want to take services from Estonian cloud provider, you need to make government procurement for that, actually. But our government have done everything to send Estonian government institutions to those American cloud cowboys. So far, I can see that.
Well, I disagree completely. The frame agreements or frame tenders, they were just to ease the burden of tens of different government institutions having to do the same thing over and over again just to be able to consume those American cowboys, as you mentioned. This is just something that we support centrally. It's not like we are forcing them to use them. Every government agency can do their own procurement, can do their own agreements with the private sector partners. They are not forced to go through the funnel of that frame agreement.
We all know how hard it is to make procurement. It's demanding resources, and if there is easy way, they are using it.
Of course, and that was the intent of that large frame agreement,
Yeah,
to make it more easier.
It won't guarantee the best pricing, best support, data sovereignty, everything. It's just easy way.
Yeah, but how do you know? What are your claims based on?
Well, my knowledge, the public information, everything in my memory, actually, some of the C-level person from Microsoft said that your data is now to open to US government. So,
Timo, what's your view? Like, how could the European cloud providers be more competitive or be top of mind for European businesses and other organizations? What should they change?
I think it's changing already, and eventually we will have competitive alternatives here as well, and I guess this is all thanks to one orange-headed cowboy. But because before I didn't feel any push, because there were these three big ones available. They were really good technically, support-wise, so why should we look anywhere else? But now, when there's this political problem created, then now there is actually companies, people are looking for local alternatives, just as a statement even.
I think we are kind of approaching the question, what is a cloud, or when does a cloud stop being a cloud and start being an on-premise server? I mean, we go smaller and smaller. Something global to me sounds like a cloud, but then if it's only European, is this a cloud? Yeah, kind of, maybe Europe sounds big. But then let's say we have the Foreign Ministry of Estonia, and they buy some servers, and then they call it a cloud. Can they call it a cloud? Is the minister cloud, right? I mean,
that's marketing then.
Yeah,
that's really what it boils down to. And I think there's technical expectations around cloud where I don't have to worry about the hardware.
No, but
and I'm talking about from a
someone does.
Someone does.
Yeah.
Same with AWS. There's hardware. There's data centers, of course. So someone has to worry about hardware at the end of the day. But for most people, I mean, how many registrars here know or care about what kind of PC, what kind of chips, and what kind of RAM is being used on their infrastructure? No one does anymore except the engineers at that level. Does it perform fast enough? Is it redundant? Is it secure? Those are the questions. And cloud has those tools that can distribute that over hardware platforms more easily than worrying about, I'm just going to overload one physical box. So that's where I look at what cloud is. So that can be 4 servers in a room. It's a tiny cloud. or it could be, you know, a total global infrastructure like Azure.
How easy is it to change a cloud? Timo, like, can you imagine that you will change the service provider for .ee?
We are working towards it, or actually keeping that in mind, so we don't trying to avoid this vendor lock-in type of approach. So we are because we are currently kind of building like a hybrid solution. So we have our own infrastructure set up, and then we have the AWS setup that kind of keeps us in check, basically. So because we always have to consider that we have to deploy in two places. It's a very expensive way of doing things, but at least it kind of keeps the framework in place. So yeah, we do hope that if something happens to, let's say we close our own infra, and then something happens to AWS, that we are able to, in reasonable time, to set it up on some other cloud provider setup.
Okay.
I think that's the bigger question, is that vendor lock-in, because if you start using very specific AWS or Azure services, well, then they have you, just like any other service does. It was discussed yesterday about like locked into Facebook versus having your own websites. Yeah, that's a problem, and that is a bigger issue, I think, overall for cloud and data sovereignty and all that. Because if you're, you know, super engineered into one person's infrastructure, how will you ever be able to be sovereign on your own as whatever entity you are? So that's, I think, a bigger concern.
Kristian, how much do you see that it's just too difficult to be one cloud provider?
Actually, the organization, like mentioned, CISPA, one of the initiatives is now cloud portability between EU cloud providers. There will be framework, there will be software stack, it will be automated, it will be secure. It will take some time to get done, but that is for avoiding that vendor locks. I'm seeing that those US cowboys, they have vendor locks, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, but it's of course in their business interest. Should we pass laws, like should we make it mandatory somehow, at least in Europe, for companies, for customers to be ready for cloud portability?
Well, CISPA is working currently with the EU Commission and with other EU country governments to help them to create frameworks, legislation, everything. Actually, CISPA also fights against like unfair software licensing. Actually, CISPA sued the Microsoft. After 1 month, Microsoft made settlement with CISPA. They were afraid, much afraid actually. The issue was like in the Azure, you can have like Windows Server license for, let's say, 17 euros. If you were a partner, you had to pay like 19 euros, but now the CISPA members can have it like for 13 euros. We are making difference.
Okay, let's try and talk about AI, because every panel on a tech conference nowadays has to at least ask the question. You know, things are changing. We have AI and we have all these, you know, crypto and Web3 things creeping up from somewhere, and this is maybe morphing up into the next chapter in tech, whatever that will be. But there are new actors, new companies, new services, new requirements coming. Will that somehow change the cloud world? Like, do you see any big changes happening?
If you're worried about data now, start using AI. Then you really
it's even more data. Yeah.
Yes, and more data being distributed, whether you like it or not.
And more globally, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how those engines better themselves, is by getting as much global data as possible. So, are you going to have just an EU LLM that can only be used by EU citizens? Maybe. Will it be as effective as a global LLM? Probably not.
Yeah, well, it depends. Well, both AWS and Azure, they have at least tried to build out their large language model services so that those models are actually run within EU data boundaries, and you can be ensured, or you have control over the flow of the data from the front end back to the model and back. So I would say that we're not obligated to use US companies' LLM models, API endpoints. So from that perspective, it's not so doom and gloom. But yeah, well, obviously the European companies, there are significant, let's say, presence when it comes to the large language models and the development of them. But still, a couple of US companies dominate the scene for sure, at least at the moment.
Yeah, we see, I mean, if you really start to think about this, it might be an interesting future. You know, we are very proud of something called the net neutrality and the principle that sort of has enabled the internet to exist in the way that it does. And now we are maybe looking at the future where there is going to be a different internet or an internet of different actors. So like an LLM internet or an agent internet, a new types of users. And we can easily see the future where, for example, the European Commission or the European Union comes together and says, we will not give access to American and Chinese LLMs or AI agents to our data, to our networks, to our IPs even. We will just block them. And then maybe we need like an AI neutrality, because otherwise we will end up with an, you know, maybe a European LLM that doesn't know anything about anything that goes on or outside Europe because we are not allowed access. And the other way around, you know, maybe American or Chinese LLMs don't have a clue that Europe even exists because they are blocked off, you know, they're fenced off. So, I mean, do you see this like happening, that we are, by setting up borders in clouds, we are setting up borders for the next internet, which is like agent-based?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we really see it in China, obviously, where the Great
the Chinese
Firewall.
Internet is like a black hole for us.
For everyone, for internally and externally, and that's not a good thing. It prevents distribution of information. It prevents entrepreneurship and new thinking and whatnot. So, in the long run, you know, we can fight about individual privacy rights and all that, and I'm fully on board with them. But do we really want to limit all the cool things that we can do globally?
So does anyone else want to jump in? Kristian?
Yeah, well, currently I can say as well that AI is like the biggest data leak what we have. There are alternatives like private AI. I'm working with NVIDIA partner, as NVIDIA partner with that as well. Agentic AI, all those new features, but that is costly. It's not for everyone, and I don't see in near future a very good solution here.
Yeah, I agree with you on that probably within past couple of years, NSA has had a terrific flow of internal purposes only data that people are just throwing to the large language models and obviously gets cached and analyzed. So yeah, probably it's the biggest data leaks have happened already and we're just not aware of those.
Well, and you look at companies like OpenAI, they are a cloud already. I mean, they're buying their own infrastructure and hardware and are globally accessible and redundant. And so those folks are also part of the new cloud, not sort of the traditional hosting that moved into cloud.
Yeah. Let's spend a few minutes discussing, I mean, the geopolitical situation is quite tense in many places of the world, including here, including Taiwan. And other countries. Does that somehow change the cloud calculation? Like, do we have to, is this a new consideration? What to do, what happens when things get real?
Yeah, definitely. In a sense that that has been, let's say, one of the pushers, I would say, of considering more large cloud service providers. As I mentioned earlier, that we as a Estonian government, we need to ensure the service availabilities even in the situation of crisis. And obviously, on the example of Ukraine, what was the first targets were actually the data centers or the information hubs. So that by itself, or that, let's say, risk as it is, it definitely has pushed more of government sector looking into the options of cloud service providers outside of Estonia.
But it can work both ways. I mean,
Of course.
I can imagine that it's good to have data here in case things go wrong. On the other hand, it's good to have data that cannot be bombed to pieces.
Well, the problem is that that our geographical placement in the world and how we are connected to the big internet, it also plays its own set of risks. And as we know, the Chinese tankers have been dragging their anchors
Yes.
across the seafloor and
Yes.
creating disruptions. And it works both ways, that we can't build ourselves into the public cloud service providers, because if your data is outside of Estonia, but you have, let's say, regulations and even laws how you need to offer citizens the service, then you need to take all of those aspects into mind when you're the product owner of that particular government service.
So what's the good solution here? To have a local cloud and an outside cloud, both?
I like the hybrid idea a lot, because one, it keeps you open, so you avoid the vendor lock-in. And then if there are ways, I mean, from a government perspective, it's going to be different from a business perspective. But if there are ways to sort of get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, well, it's just that, as I mentioned at the beginning of our panel or session, that I do not fancy hybrid cloud solutions at all, especially when it comes to more than 2 service providers, even if one of them is your private cloud or and the other is large cloud service providers, because managing that sort of setup is really complex and complicated. You need to have really good expertise in-house, or you need to have really experienced partners who take care of that. And basically you have security stack, all the IT service management stack, you have everything doubled. So that is the cost aspect of I am having a set of risk, and one of them being a vendor lock-in. If I go into partner with one vendor, then I need to perhaps build out my business services in a way that I'm not locked into my eyeballs with the platform specific aspect. So it's a really complex topic, and there are no one right or wrong answer to that. It always depends on the maturity of an organization or the services or even the budget that you have.
But you don't see that you want to have like the Estonian state cloud guys, the whole department running everything, and then next to them like an AWS or whatever foreign cloud guys who do exactly the same thing but for a different cloud, and there is double the cost suddenly for you.
It's even more than double the cost. That's the problem. When you double the amount of work or things, it's magnitudes difference in cost.
Yeah, Kristian, what's your solution?
Well, I agree as well. There is no universal silver bullet for that topic. You have own expertise is very expensive. If you want to have it, get it done with high quality. However, there are technical solutions, easy to manage hybrid clouds. One is VMware. The second is actually that European-made Wavecom. Actually, it's supporting all that. It's easy, but you do need specialists, own specialists. Okay, you can buy that knowledge. It's also optional, but it comes with cost. Actually, that's the one point. The second point for geopolitical situation. Well, our organization have like plan B, C, D, so on. We just certified ourselves for business continuity. It's driven by all that geopolitical situation. Actually, our customers wants to see that we have it.
All right. Well, our time is up. Thank you very much for the discussion, and thanks to the audience for all the questions and the input. Yeah, thanks. So now we are going